My name is Liam. I'm 27 years old, and I live in a small town in Indiana. I've always been a bit of a bargain hunter, especially when it comes to furniture. Most of my apartment is furnished with things I found on Craigslist, some of it even free. I've never had a bad experience with Craigslist before, so I didn't think twice when I saw a listing for a high-end leather couch being given away for free. The post was simple: free leather couch, moving out, need it gone today. There was one picture and the couch looked brand new. The seller's name was Darren and the address he provided wasn't too far from me, about a 15-minute drive. I messaged him right away and he responded almost immediately. Darren seemed friendly in his text, but he was oddly insistent that I come that evening. It's first come, first serve, he said. I'm moving early tomorrow, so if you don't pick it up tonight, someone else will. I was excited about the couch, but slightly hesitant. Picking up furniture at night wasn't ideal, but the address he sent looked legitimate. Plus, he said he'd help me load the couch into my truck, which made things easier. I grabbed some gloves and a moving blanket and headed out around 8:30 p.m. When I arrived at the address, my stomach sank. The location wasn't a house or apartment like I'd expected. It was an old, rundown warehouse on the edge of town. The parking lot was empty except for a single flickering streetlight. I double-checked the address, thinking I must have made a mistake, but it matched perfectly. I texted Darren to let him know I was there. Almost immediately, a man stepped out of the shadows near the side of the warehouse. "Hey, Liam," he called out, smiling as he walked toward me. He looked normal enough, mid-30s, average build, wearing jeans and a hoodie, but there was something about his overly friendly demeanor that felt off. His smile seemed forced, like he was trying too hard to put me at ease. "Thanks for coming so quick," he said. "The couch is just inside. Let's get it loaded up." I hesitated. The warehouse looked abandoned, the kind of place you'd expect to see in a horror movie. "This is your place?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. "Yeah, it's my buddy's warehouse. He's letting me store some stuff here while I move." Darren waved me toward the door, motioning for me to follow him inside. Every instinct in my body told me to turn around and leave, but I ignored it. I didn't want to seem rude or paranoid, and honestly, I really wanted that couch. Inside, the warehouse was dimly lit, with most of the space shrouded in darkness. The couch was sitting in the middle of the room, just as promised. It looked exactly like the picture, sleek, black leather, and in perfect condition. "Come on, let's get this thing out to your truck," Darren said, walking toward the couch. We lifted the couch together and started carrying it toward the door. That's when I heard it, the sound of a lock clicking behind me. I froze. Slowly, I turned around to see Darren pulling a heavy metal door shut. "Just locking up," he said. But his tone had changed. It was no longer friendly. It was cold, almost mocking. That's when I noticed movement in the shadows. 2 other men stepped out from behind some old shelves, both dressed in dark clothes. One of them was holding what looked like a crowbar. My heart was pounding, but I tried to stay calm. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Darren didn't answer. Instead, he just smirked. I realized then that this wasn't about a couch. I had walked into a trap. Before I could think, one of the men lunged at me. I dropped my end of the couch and swung my arm, hitting him hard enough to knock him back. Adrenaline kicked in as I grabbed the first thing I could find, a metal pipe leaning against the wall, and swung it at the second guy. Darren shouted something, but I didn't hear it. I was too focused on getting to the door. I shoved past him, managing to unlock it and burst outside. I didn't stop running until I reached my truck. My hands were shaking so badly, I struggled to get the keys in the ignition. Just as I started the engine, I saw the men running toward me. I floored it, leaving everything behind, including the couch and the moving blanket. When I got home, I called the police and reported the incident. They took my statement and said they'd investigate, but I never heard back. As far as I know, those men were never caught. I've thought about that night a lot since then. I can't help but wonder how many people weren't as lucky as I was. I don't use Craigslist anymore. No deal, no matter how good it seems, is worth your life. My name is Maya, and I'm 25 years old. I live in a small, quiet apartment complex in Austin, Texas. I've always been pretty careful about my safety, especially since I live alone, but I never thought something as simple as selling an old phone online could turn into one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. A few months ago, I decided to sell my old iPhone on Craigslist. It was in great condition, and I figured I could make some quick cash. Within an hour of posting the ad, I got a message from someone named Ryan. He said he was really interested and offered to pay the full asking price in cash. It sounded perfect. Ryan asked if he could pick up the phone that evening, and while I normally would have preferred to meet in a public place, I was in a hurry to get rid of it. He seemed polite and even mentioned that he didn't live far from me. I figured it would save time if he just came to my apartment. He showed up around 8 p.m. I'll never forget how I felt the moment I opened the door. Ryan was tall, in his late 30s, with messy dark hair and a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. He looked harmless enough, but something about him immediately made me uneasy. "Nice place you've got," he said as he stepped inside the doorway. I hadn't invited him in, but he lingered there, glancing around my apartment like he was sizing it up. I held up the phone, hoping to keep things quick. "Here it is. It's in perfect condition. Do you want to check it out?" He barely looked at the phone. Instead, he started asking me questions that had nothing to do with the phone. "Do you live here alone?" he asked, his tone casual but curious. I froze for a second. "No," I lied. "I have a roommate." He nodded, his eyes scanning the room behind me. "Nice. They home right now?" Something about the way he asked sent a chill down my spine. I forced a smile and said, "Yeah, they're in the bedroom." Ryan finally took the phone, giving it a quick glance before pulling out some cash and handing it to me. But even as he left, I could feel his eyes lingering on me. I locked the door the second he was gone, but I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. I told myself I was overreacting, that he was just a little weird. But later that night, something happened that made me realize my gut instincts were right. Around 1 a.m., I was lying in bed scrolling on my new phone when I heard it, the faint sound of footsteps outside my bedroom window. My heart stopped. I live on the ground floor, and my window faces a small alleyway that's usually deserted at night. I turned off my phone screen and listened. The footsteps stopped, but then I heard something else. The soft scrape of metal against glass. Someone was trying to open my window. Panic set in. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911 as quietly as I could. Whispering into the phone, I told the operator what was happening. She told me to stay calm and stay on the line until officers arrived. I stayed frozen in my bed, clutching my phone. Minutes felt like hours as I listened to the faint sounds outside. At one point, I heard a low muttering, like someone talking to themselves. Finally, I saw the flashing red and blue lights outside my window. I heard the footsteps retreat quickly, followed by the sound of someone running. The officers knocked on my door moments later, and I let them in, still shaking. They searched the area and found a man hiding in the bushes near the alley. It was Ryan. He had a crowbar and a small bag filled with tools for breaking and entering. When they searched his car, parked nearby, they found stolen items from other burglaries, jewelry, electronics, and even wallets. The officers told me I was lucky. Ryan had likely been scoping out my apartment when he came to buy the phone. He must have seen me as an easy target, especially since I live alone. I pressed charges, but I still think about that night all the time. I've since moved to a new apartment in a more secure building. I never meet strangers at my home anymore, no matter how convenient it seems. Selling that phone wasn't worth the fear I felt that night, or the thought of what could have happened if the police hadn't arrived in time. My name is Sophia, and I'm 24 years old. I live in Portland, Oregon, and like many people my age, I've been trying to find my footing in life. I'm an aspiring model, though I wouldn't say I'm professional, just someone with big dreams and a decent Instagram following. A few weeks ago, I came across a Craigslist ad that seemed like the perfect opportunity. The ad was looking for models to feature in a new clothing brand. It sounded legit, and the person behind it, Matt, emphasized it was a great chance for beginners to build their portfolios. There were no red flags in the listing, and he provided a link to what looked like a professional website with photos of previous work. I'd been scammed by fake modeling gigs before, but this one seemed trustworthy, and I was desperate to make a name for myself. Matt replied to my email almost immediately. He sounded polite and professional, asking for a few of my photos and letting me know he loved my look. He suggested we meet for a shoot the following weekend, saying he'd found a beautiful, natural, outdoor location just outside the city. He claimed the natural lighting there would complement the clothing perfectly. I asked if I could bring someone with me, but he said it'd be a small team setting and too crowded if extra people tagged along. That made me pause. But he reassured me with more details about the shoot, including a long list of outfits I'd supposedly be modeling. When Saturday rolled around, I borrowed my roommate's car and followed the GPS to the location Matt had given me. It was a long drive, taking me deep into the woods. The closer I got, the more I started feeling uneasy. The natural light location turned out to be nothing more than a clearing surrounded by trees. There wasn't even a parking area, just a dirt patch where Matt's car was parked. Matt was already there, leaning against his car with a camera slung over his shoulder. He looked normal enough, mid-30s, scruffy beard, and wearing a hoodie and jeans, but something about his demeanor felt off. He greeted me with an overly enthusiastic smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Glad you made it," he said. "This spot's perfect, right?" Just what I imagined. I glanced around, trying to spot the clothing racks or equipment I expected. There was nothing, just his camera. No team, no props, no signs of a professional shoot. My stomach twisted. "Where's the wardrobe?" I asked, keeping my tone casual. "Oh, I've got everything in my car," he replied, gesturing vaguely. "We'll keep it simple for today. You know, get some natural, candid shots." I nodded, even though alarm bells were ringing in my head. He started asking me questions as we walked toward the clearing, but they had nothing to do with modeling. Instead, they were personal, invasive. "So do you live alone?" he asked. "No, I have a roommate," I lied. "Boyfriend?" he pressed, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Yeah," I lied again. "He's super protective?" Matt gave a tight smile, and I could feel his gaze lingering on me. I tried to shake off the growing unease, but it only got worse when he asked if I told anyone where I was. "Of course," I said quickly. "My roommate knows exactly where I am. She's waiting for me to text when we're done." His smile faltered, just for a second, and my heart started pounding. I knew I had to get out of there. I pulled my phone out and pretended to answer an urgent call. "Hey, what? Oh no, seriously?" I said, faking panic. "Okay, I'm coming back right now." "Something wrong?" Matt asked, frowning. "Yeah, sorry," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "My roommate just got locked out of the apartment. I have to go let her in." His expression darkened, but he nodded. "That's too bad," he said slowly. "We'll reschedule then?" "Sure," I said quickly, already backing away. "I'll email you." I got in my car and drove off as fast as I could. My hands were shaking the entire way home. I knew I just dodged something bad, though I didn't fully realize how bad until a week later. I was scrolling through the news when I saw his face. Matt's mugshot stared back at me under a headline: "Local photographer arrested for luring women to isolated locations." The article detailed how he'd been using Craigslist ads to target young women, assaulting them during supposed photo shoots. Police were urging other victims to come forward. I felt sick. I couldn't stop thinking about how close I'd come to being his next victim. To this day, I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't trusted my gut and left when I did. I haven't responded to a modeling ad since, and I never will again. Sometimes the opportunities that seem too good to be true are just traps in disguise.